Welcome to Four Things All Investors Should Know. This is Ainsley Rogers, and I am welcoming Todd Holden, our financial advisor, to speak to you today. I hope you enjoy the webinar.
Hi, I'm Todd Holden from Northwest Financial Advisors, a registered investment advisory firm and subsidiary of Northwest Capital Management, which is wholly owned by Northwest Federal Credit Union. Welcome to Four Things All Investors Should Know, and thank you for joining me today. Before we begin, I want to be clear that this presentation is general in nature and may not address every single issue you have. We will have a brief Q&A at the end to provide you with an opportunity to ask questions. However, in consideration of all attendees, specific, unusual, or complex inquiries are better suited for a personal consultation. Please also be advised that this presentation is being recorded for the purpose of sharing the content after the webinar, but all attendee questions and comments will be removed to protect your privacy. With that, let's start with the number one thing investors should know. Asset allocation drives 90% of our results. While it may be exciting to choose mutual funds and stocks, it is more important to focus on asset allocation rather than specific investments. How we allocate our money between safe, stable investments and riskier, growth-oriented investments determines more of our result than the specific investments we choose. I'll put it this way. You can search the entire country and you will be hard-pressed to find a savings account paying more than 1%. Likewise, if you were to look at US stock mutual funds, it would be near impossible to find one that had a positive return in March of last year when the stock market dropped by 35%. Academics have studied this issue for the last 20 to 30 years and have determined that 90% of the variation in portfolio returns is due to asset allocation. How much of your money is invested safely or conservatively, and how much of your money is invested aggressively, not your specific investments. Your takeaway is that we all need to spend more time looking at our allocations and less time looking at the specific investments. Point number two, fees are important, but they are not everything. Russell Kinnell, the director of Morningstar Research, publishes an annual report on mutual funds. The September 2020 report is titled The Thrilling 36. I set the bar really high, but only 36 funds made the cut. Previous years have had titles such as The Terrific 28 and The Fantastic 45. Some funds drop off and some funds are added each year. Mr. Kinnell does not state that the lowest fees produce the best returns. Rather, he searches for funds with fees in the lowest quintile. This means that the funds on his list have lower fees than 80% of their peers. And his research shows that this is a more important metric than funds which have the absolute lowest expense. Also noteworthy is that none of the funds on his list are index funds, which are known specifically for their low fees. Takeaway, shop for low fees, but not necessarily the absolute lowest fees. Number three, not all mutual funds are the same. If we look at a very big picture, there are two types of mutual funds, bond and stock funds. Bond funds, I don't know what I did there, excuse me. Bond funds include US government funds. They invest only in bonds that are issued by the US government. Now, some of you may ask, what is a bond? A bond is just a fancy word for an IOU. You're loaning the US government $1,000. They're going to pay you interest every 6 months, And at maturity, whether that's 5, 10, or 20 years, 30 years, they're going to pay you back your $1,000. Bond funds include municipal bonds, invests in bonds issued by cities, counties, states, water authorities, school districts, things like that. Corporate bond funds invests in bonds issued by corporations. International bond funds invests in bonds issued by foreign entities. These could be foreign governments, they could be foreign companies. Stock funds include large cap funds. A large cap company is probably a company you've heard of. Verizon, Walmart, Amazon, AT&T, Ford. These would all be large cap, and they'd be part of a large cap stock fund. Small cap invests in stocks of smaller companies, many of which you may not have crossed your path. International stock funds, funds that invest only in companies headquartered overseas. Global stock funds include both overseas as well as US companies. The key, what's important is your results will depend on what type of fund you buy. Go back to point number 1. Asset allocation is key. Stock funds will have different returns and risks than bond funds. So two investors who use mutual funds will have vastly different results depending on what kind of funds they use. It's not the funds, it's what the funds invest in. And point number 4, you can go it alone, but you'll probably do you'll probably do better with a good advisor. This is going to sound totally self-serving, so I'm going to draw from Vanguard, a company extremely popular with do-it-yourself advisors, or do-it-yourself investors, excuse me. In their publication, Bringing Value Through Advice, Vanguard describes how financial advisors bring value to their clients. The number one thing is behavioral coaching. Investing evokes emotion. We're dealing with money. Your advisor can help you maintain a long-term perspective and disciplined approach based on your financial plan. This practice alone is how your advisor can more than earn his or her fee. I like to put it this way. The premier athletes in the world, quarterbacks, golfers, tennis players, they all have coaches. So why would they spend money on coaches if the coaches didn't add value? No matter how good an investor one is, they could probably benefit from a coach or advisor. Other ways that advisors help are portfolio construction, making certain your asset allocation matches your risk, reward, and goals. Cost effective, making certain you're not paying too much for your underlying investments. Tax efficient, making certain that you're minimizing the tax bill from your investments. Looking at a total return orientation toward investments, because some investments pay a lot of dividends and some don't. And what's the most appropriate for you? In our previous point, we covered how different types of funds have different results based on the investments they make. A stock fund has different results than a bond fund. Constructing a portfolio based on how much risk you can take and your time horizon is important. I'll share a little story from one of our member clients. He was a credit union member and not a client, and he came to me with 2 retirement accounts from previous employers, 2 old 401ks. In his own words, one was great and one was a real dog. Upon looking at them, I realized that the great account was invested in a stock fund intended to grow, while the other account was invested in a stable value fund with a focus on protecting his principal. It's not that one account was better than the other, but this member had 2 vastly different funds inside each account. Had he been working actively with an advisor, he would have realized this and not let his retirement funds in the dog account languish for 10 plus years. This did not fit his risk tolerance or his time horizon. He would have benefited from better portfolio construction. Wealth management. Given the importance of selecting a suitable asset allocation, it is also vital to maintain that allocation. As your investments produce unequal returns over time, your portfolio can drift from your target asset allocation. You can acquire more risk and return traits that may be inconsistent with your circumstances. Your advisor can help you by periodically rebalancing your portfolio. Too often, we fire and forget. As Vanguard writes, this leads to our portfolios being out of balance. In good markets, we've done well, feel great, we let it ride. When the market drops, we get scared, fail to take advantage of opportunities offered by lower prices. In our heads, we understand buy low, sell high, but our stomachs rarely allow us to do so. An advisor can help with this by either rebalancing for you or implementing an automatic rebalancing plan for your portfolio, thus taking emotions out of it. If you're interested in this PDF of bringing value through advice from Vanguard, just ask. We're glad to send it to you. The takeaway on this point is give consideration as to whether you'd be better with an advisor or going alone. We appreciate your feedback and kindly request that you complete our post-webinar survey. We also want to make certain that the content we provide to you is relevant. So if you have specific ideas on content, please email Ainsley Rogers at arogers@nwfllc.com. My presentation is concluded. We have a few minutes for questions and answers. So Ainsley, do you want to take the Q&A session from here?
Sure, thanks, Todd. If you have a question on your control panel, you'll see a little white hand that you may raise, and I can unmute you, and you will need to unmute yourself as well and ask any question that you would like. So go ahead and raise your hand if you would like. As of right now, Todd, I don't see any questions.
That's fine. Let me give you my email address. You can contact me directly. My email address is R as in Richard, T as in Todd, my last name, HOLDEN @nwfllc.com. But thank you for joining us, and I look forward to hearing from you with any questions you may have in the future. Take care.